Hi everybody, this is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I am very happy to be creating a layout for Mixed Media Mayhem. The recipe for this week's Mixed Media Mayhem is multicolor, pattern paper, and ink. And I also have to mention there was also a sketch that I neglected to use. I didn't realize that that was for this week's layout until after I had already started it. But hopefully next week I will know exactly what to do for Mixed Media Mayhem. I'm starting out with a piece of thick white cardstock. I use 120-pound cardstock. I usually coat it with some white gesso. This paper, I started using it for another layout and the right-hand side of it was a little bit grungy, so I thought that would be perfect because I'm going to cover up the right-hand side with some pattern paper. I'm using some Liquitex modeling paste, and I'm also using a Vicky Bouton stencil. This is from the Sweet Rush collection, and I'm covering the background with a whole bunch of hearts. I'm using my palette knife here to get rid of some of those half hearts. I don't mind having one or two of those, but since it is a specific shape, I like to have as many complete hearts as possible. I decided to add just a couple more hearts in the center of the two groups I already had. And then I do use my heat tool and I dry the background really well. Now I'm adding a number of sprays to the background. I'm starting off with a Lindy's Starburst spray called Saltwater Taffy. It's a very pretty light pink color. I thought it matched very well with the pattern papers that I'm going to use. And then I wanted to add some orange to the layout, and I first tried one color that looked a little bit too brown, so I decided to go with this Prima Color Bloom 2 color. It is called Pot Marigold. I love to use the packaging technique, taking a piece of plastic, putting some sprays on it, and then applying it to the page. Usually I will put the sprays down first and then do some stenciling with modeling paste after I've put the sprays down. I haven't done this in a while where I put the modeling paste down first and then put the sprays down, and I like it both ways. It does create a slightly different effect though, putting the modeling paste down first and then adding the sprays. Since I put the modeling paste down first and then I added the color on top, a lot of the images, in this case they're hearts, they're getting the color on them. Whereas if you put the color down first and then put the modeling paste on top of it, a lot of the images you make with your stencils will be the color of the modeling paste. So I like both ways, but I thought that this was nice because you really get to see the hearts. I added another color to the background. I added a darker pink, and this is a Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist called Strawberry Cream. And I pulled all three of these colors from the Simple Stories Happy Hearts collection. That's what I'm going to be using for this layout. And I added the splatters in all three of the colors I have in the background. Because one of the elements that we have to use this week is ink, I thought I would do some stamping on the background. I'm using an old rubber stamp. It looks like script writing. I use 3 different colors of Archival ink. I use Staz On in pumpkin and fuchsia pink, and I also use a Ranger archival color called aquamarine. Now there's going to be some blue in the pattern papers, so I thought I would try adding a little bit of blue in, but I just add a touch. I started adding it and I wasn't in love with it. I'm glad there's touches of it, but I didn't want to have too much of it. And then I went ahead and added some in the pink and the orange. I also used a rubber dot stamp and I added some dots of all 3 colors to the background as well. And I like to add dots to the background. They're similar to splatters, but they have a slightly different look. And I like to add splatters and stamp dots, especially along the edge of the large area of color. I think that it helps to transition the large area of color into the background. When I started adding the stamping, I was thinking I probably should have done this before I added modeling paste to the layout, but I didn't think to do it, and it ended up working out fine putting it on afterwards as well. So this is the paper that I'm going to be using, and this is a very bright, cheery, kind of a Valentine's Day themed collection. I'm going to be using it with a photo of our dog Onyx. She passed away quite a while ago, but she was just the sweetest most wonderful dog I could ever have asked for. This photo was taken on Easter Sunday. The kids were having an Easter egg hunt, and Onyx was just chilling on our hill and playing with her ball. I have the photo cut down. It was a 4x6 inch photo, and I cut down the excess around the outside. I mounted on some white cardstock, then I mounted it on some pattern paper from the collection, and then I mounted it on some navy blue cardstock. I thought I would add a little border to separate the mixed media area from the pattern paper area. So I used an EK Success punch that I had in my stash, and I punched out a white border. And now I'm popping up my photo on some fun foam. And this was just one of those days when I had a lot of trouble getting the adhesive to stick to the foam. I finally got enough adhesive on there to attach the photo down to the page, and I put the photo right in the center of the page. And this composition is one that I've used before. I just felt the need to do something familiar. I don't want to say that I was having scrapper's block, but I just felt that need to get started, and I didn't want to overthink anything. If I had seen the sketch that I was supposed to use, I wouldn't have had that problem, but because I wanted to just start creating, I decided to use something that was familiar to me. This title is from the sticker sheet that came with the collection. I thought that this would be cute, XOXO. And even though this collection seems to be made for Valentine's Day, I think that these colors will go really well with the other Easter layouts that are going to be in the album. I used some more fun foam, and I popped up this title. I had the Thickers pack that has a whole bunch of titles on it, but none of the titles were just the right size and color. And I like the way this title has all of the main colors of the collection in it. I trimmed that border at the edge, and now I'm going to start making a small cluster on the upper left-hand corner. I use some of the ephemera pieces, and I'm also going to be using some of the foam stickers, and I use some stickers from the sticker sheet where I got the title from. There were a number of these tiny sentiments, and I wanted to include this one that says, "Love you always and forever," right under the photo, but I wanted to mount it first on some pattern paper. So I went to my scraps and I found a pink striped scrap that I thought matched in well, and I mounted it on that scrap. The envelope that's on the lower right-hand corner of the layout, that was from the ephemera pack. I'm going to do some journaling on that. I haven't done it yet, but I am going to journal on there about Onyx before I put the layout into the album. I added a number of fussy cut flowers to the layout. These flowers are what drew me to this collection. I absolutely love them. I love the colors. I just really enjoyed fussy cutting them out, and I fussy cut out a whole bunch of them. I used some Distress Oxide in Chip Sapphire to ink the edges of a number of the elements on the page. I ink the banners on the top left, I ink the envelope on the bottom right, and then I ink up the flowers that are around the layout as well. I wanted to give a little bit of dimension to the envelope with the letter in it, so I put some fun foam on the back of that too, and I popped it up, and then I started assembling that cluster that's on the lower right hand corner. So I added one of the large flowers, and then I'm using this foam heart from the foam sticker pack. I think that's super cute. Now I'm inking the edges of the leaves on one of the flowers, and I tuck that on the upper right hand side of the photo. And then there's a tab there that says "Love You." I cut that off of one of the ephemera pieces, and I thought that that would look nice on the right hand side, a little bit of layering behind the photo. And for the cluster on the lower right hand corner, and then also the one that I haven't really started on the upper left hand corner, I will continually go back to those and add other little embellishments. I wanted them to be very detailed. So I start off the one on the upper left-hand corner with two of the banners from the ephemera pack, and I pop up the striped one on some foam. That way all of the major clusters on the page, all the important elements are popped up or have something on them that are popped up. And then I add another one of those foam hearts. I was so happy there was a blue one because I really wanted to bring some blue to that upper left-hand cluster. And then I add a number of ephemera pieces that are flowers. And then it was right about this time that I decided I did not like that chipped sapphire on the edge of the flowers. And I know this might sound funny to say because this is a mixed media layout, but I didn't like the way that it took away from the clean look of the flowers. I love inking the edges of things. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I can sometimes go a little bit crazy inking edges, and I usually love it, but on this particular layout with this particular collection, I did not like those inked edges. And the inked edges luckily didn't bother me on the banners and the envelope and that little tab, but I just didn't like them on the flowers. So luckily I had tons of flowers, and I'm sure that I can use those flowers on other layouts, but I replaced all of those flowers that had inked edges with flowers that did not have the inked edges. So on the left-hand side, I am popping up one of the flowers, and I'll layer that on top of the flower that's already there. There's a lot of pink on this layout, so I didn't want the flowers to just blend in with the pink pattern paper in the background. So I wanted to add a lot of leaves, and luckily there were quite a few leaves to fussy cut out, and I added a lot of them to each of those areas of flowers, and I thought that that brought another color that helps to break up the pink to the layout. The pattern paper that I fussy cut the big flowers from had some smaller flowers too. There were some smaller pink flowers, and then there were some really teeny tiny blue flowers, and I'm going to use both of those on the layout. First, I added a few of those small pink flowers to the layout. I added some foam hearts, one on either side of the title. And then I had some of the matching enamel dots, so I put some up on the banners. I put some on the sentiment that's on the envelope. I also put a slightly larger one on that tab that says "Love You." I first saw these papers at a scrapbooking convention, and as I said, I was in love with those flowers. So I bought some papers, not a ton of them, but I bought a number of the papers, but I didn't have any embellishments. And then Peachy Cheap, a few weeks later, had a whole embellishment pack. So, of course, I had to get that. I started adding those very small blue flowers to the layout. And as I started adding them, I really liked them, probably because there was so much pink, and that little touch of blue really, I thought, was a nice addition to the page. And once again, it broke up all of that pink. So I added all of the flowers that I had fussy cut out, and then I went back and I fussy cut out a bunch more because I wanted to add more of them to each of the clusters. And those blue flowers are very tiny. They're one of the tiniest things that I have fussy cut out in such a large number. And then you may have noticed that throughout this layout, I'm just continuing to add those leaves in all different places. I just wanted to make sure that each of the clusters looked balanced. I wanted to make sure that I attached those little blue flowers down before I forgot they were there and not attached, and moved the layout because I've done similar things in the past. So I'm using some gel glue, and I'm just picking up each of those tiny flowers and attaching it down to the page. I added the smallest size of the pink and the blue enamel dots to each of those foam hearts that's on either side of the title. And then I added some photo corners to the layout. I love adding these. I think that especially in this layout, it's nice that I can bring the pink. Even though I have a ton of pink on the layout, there's not that much pink that's close to the photo. So I used some bright pink, and then I also used that scrap of paper with the stripes on it, and I have two of each color of photo corner. And then I used the medium dots in orange and blue, and I added the orange dots to the bright pink photo corners, and I added the blue ones to the softer pink striped photo corners. And to make those photo corners, I use a punch. It's an EK Success photo corner punch. And I really like the way those leaves are looking, and so I had a few more, so I thought I would place those on the layout as well. Being very careful with the ATG adhesive not to rip those leaves, and then tucking them around those large flowers. And that is the very last touch that I add to this layout. Here are some close-ups. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'm very excited to be creating layouts for Mixed Media Mayhem again, and I am going to make sure that I have the assignment correct for next week. I hope that everybody takes a look in the description box where you'll find links to all of the other collaborators for Mixed Media Mayhem. I hope that everybody has a fantastic day, and I will see you all again next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.